Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventures. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109, and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 428th edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, a little bit of an exploration of a city by foot. We'll get into that in a moment here as I am continuing the car-free lifestyle here in Seattle and figuring out where the heck I'm going to be living in a few months, moving from the downtown spot to somewhere else. Before we get into all of that, a couple of housekeeping elements. Number one, if you are listening to this the day of release, we have a live show tomorrow, which will end up being the next episode of the show. So if you can't make it live, just fast forward a week and you'll get the live show. We're going to be talking more about the transition to the new digs here. We will be doing an Ask Me Anything, and we might talk a little bit about the second housekeeping item here, and that is the membership vote of the Adventure Cycling Association that is happening soon. I don't have the dates in front of me, and if you're a member, you're doubtlessly getting flooded from multiple different angles on the whole thing. If you're new to the issue, they're speaking about perhaps selling their iconic building, iconic to some people, and it is controversial. It has got some energy to it. It has got a lot of emotion tied up into it. And I was going to do a larger episode on it. And I'm going to be honest, the reason why it's in housekeeping and not the entire episode right now is I think I'm out. I think I'm just out on the whole issue. Not that I don't think it's important, not that I don't think you should vote. You should all vote if you're members. But I found myself in a scenario where I just saw a lot of drama. And I got enough of that in my day job, to be perfectly honest. I think that there were some absolutely grounded folks in the debate on both sides, and then some absolutely unhinged people. And I'm just tapping out on the whole thing. I think that it's important that you learn about it. I don't know if I recommend the meeting that's on YouTube, because that kind of prompted me to tap out. I'm just hopeful that the ACA can get through this. I've been in nonprofits for a really long time. I know how they're run. I understand budget issues. I understand a whole bunch of different things that go on generally. I don't think that I've got enough of a knowledge base to be able to speak super authoritatively on this, and so I won't. But I will say that there are some really grounded arguments in the numbers. There's some really grounded arguments in maybe some distrust of the process, which I think is all super worth taking a look at. And I'm not going to tell you how I would vote, largely because it's not my place. And also, I'm not a member and never have been. And so I don't feel like it's my place to insert my opinions on any of this kind of stuff, except to say that there's a looking forward and then there's a looking back. And I tend to be a looking forward kind of guy. So I don't know, interpret that how you will. But that's all I'm going to mention about it on this particular episode. It's possible we may touch on it in the live show. If anybody's got thoughts or opinions, I'm willing to maybe open up the forum a little bit on all of that. That would be for the live show. Again, that's going to be on Friday the 16th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and whatever time zone you happen to be in. Love to have you there. That's pedalshift.net/live, or go to the YouTube channel. You'll get to the same place either way. And I hope you join, because they're fun. And this will be the first one that we do here in lovely Seattle. Speaking of, I am quite literally at the base of the Space Needle. I just took a really interesting meeting that is not relevant to the podcast, but relevant to my life. I am looking around in a variety of different neighborhoods. Thank you all for your thoughts and opinions on particularly West Seattle, because that was the neighborhood that I underscored as where I was looking the most. I've broadened it, not because West Seattle's out of the running, but I've just broadened the look-see. And that gets to the topic of the show, and that is exploring a city by foot. And the reason why I think it's super relevant in the podcast narrative is I always talk about traveling at the speed of bike and how that's important to really get to know the places that you're traveling to. And it's all about slow travel. And I think slow travel is a really beneficial thing. And I've talked about this on the pod ad nauseum. And so now I'm translating this to a little slower even method, and that is just getting out and going by foot. And what you notice and what you can learn and the little things that you see, particularly in the place where I'm at right now, where I'm neighborhood scoping. And it all goes back to the whole notion of that slow travel can really open your eyes up to what's really going on and the things that are more available to you when you travel at that speed. And so I've taken that lesson as part of my look-sees of a variety of different places in and around Seattle. And I think it's been really eye-opening. One of the things that I've noticed is that when you're traveling slow, when you're walking about like I have, you get a sense of what it's like to actually not just visit, but to live in a place. I think that's less so at the speed of bike. That's more, you're really going to be noticing detail. But when you're walking, you get a sense of what it means to actually be laying your head on a pillow nearby. And I think that both things are super valuable for their respective items. And I've always said that in the biking context, and certainly I've been finding this here. And what have I been noticing? I've been noticing that you pay more attention to the sounds of what's going on around you, and you pay more attention to things like sight lines. Like, what are you going to be noticing every day? I'm just looking over here right now. As I mentioned, I'm right next to the Space Needle right now. I just see somebody who is cleaning windows elevated up on a bunch of guy lines in some Seattle Center building. If I was going by in a car, or even maybe a bike, I'm not sure if I would have noticed that. They're not moving a lot. They're just doing their thing. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, that you end up getting to a place where you are noticing stuff that is going to be part of your everyday life. I'm not saying I'm moving around here specifically, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Getting to audio, like what is the traffic like? What is it going to be like around a concert if you're by a venue? What is it like if you want a coffee? If you're tired, is there a place to sit? All those types of things are part of the process of just wandering. And I use that term wander deliberately. We think if you're a fan of science fiction at all, I guess it wouldn't be science fiction, it would be fantasy. All you Hobbit people, all you Tolkien people are going to come after me. But all who wander are not lost is a famous line from those books of Tolkien that's quoted quite a lot. And I think that is super valuable in this context, and certainly a nice mantra for your life as well. But it allows you to be able to find things that maybe you wouldn't be able to find in a Google Maps search or something along those lines. Example, here's the closest gas station. If I had a car and lived around here, there's the gas station. That's where you would go get gas, or at least would be the closest place where you could go get gas. And just the things that you realize. Now, I just got done saying that walking and biking is a positive thing, and I just went to, that's a gas station for my car, but yeah, it's relevant. And I think that's true also in the bike travel context as well. So as you wander about, maybe you're close to camp, and you pass by a place, go, oh, that looks like a good place to get a beer, or that's a good place to come back and get dinner. After I go set up at camp, I'm going to come back here. Or maybe I know that I'm a few miles away from camp. I'll grab stuff and take it to there. Or I'll stop here first. Any of a variety of different ways that ends up working out for you. So as I wander about Seattle, I'm taking in those lessons that I got from bicycle travel and applying it to just everyday life. It also is an interesting way that you can see how other people live. And of course, that's a lesson in all sorts of different things that you end up with in life. I'm seeing, as a lot of people know here in Seattle and in a lot of places, that you see folks who are doing really well for themselves, and then you see some folks who are on some hard times. And that's a really good, a grounding thing from my perspective of realizing just how life can be really different for people. And that is a really good way to understand the contrasts and how other people think and live and all of that other kind of stuff. And again, it's all of these things are interconnected. And that's why I wanted to talk about it in the context of this show, because the lessons that I take from life can sometimes translate into bicycling travel. And then the opposite is true. The stuff that I take from bicycle travel end up being super handy things to bring into your general life. So I want to go back to a few other notions here about all of this, and talking about things in terms of miles. Kilometer people, don't come at me. I'm just using these American units because it's what I know. Translated into kilometers, what is that? Oh, geez. I was gonna convert it into kilograms because it's 2.2 pounds to kilogram, and now I can't even remember. It's 0.68 miles to kilometer. That's more math than I'm willing to do. Let's just say 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers, 3 miles. That sounds about right. The concept of how 3 miles by car takes you at highway speeds 3 minutes, and you're going to miss a whole bunch of stuff. By bicycle, it's going to take you closer to, depends on how fast you're going. You might be able to cover that slower or quicker. Are you loaded? Are you non-loaded? Are you really sprinting? Whatever you're doing. But suffice to say, it's going to take you more than 3 minutes. But if you do it while you walk, yesterday I walked 3.5 miles. I went all the way up to Queen Anne, Upper Queen Anne, and I walked all the way back to my place downtown. And talk about a difference. Had I driven that, had I biked it, but I walked it. And the amount of detail that you end up getting is pretty remarkable. And that's a good way to look at it, is this whole 3 mile kind of concept. You could even call it almost an illusion. It's an illusion if you're driving. It removes the veil a little bit as you're cycling. And boy, you really get to know things if you're doing it walking, let me tell you. And I did 3.5, and boy, was I tired after that. And luckily, it was downhill. Those of you in Seattle realize that if I had done it the opposite way, I would have needed smelling salts or something like that. Okay. The other thing that I think is really interesting is the notion of perspective. And again, comparing contrast. If you are driving, your sight line is a little bit different. First of all, you're seated, which definitely changes your perspective. Also, you're constrained in your field of view. You're not going to be able to just, do what I'm doing right now, spinning around, looking back at the Space Needle as I'm walking towards the water. If I did that when I was in a car, I would crash. I couldn't even do that really on a bike as much, but your ability to maybe maneuver a little bit is a little less constrained. But, that sightline learning that you get when you walk is so much more robust, even than when you bike, but certainly not when you're in a vehicle as you're going along. And that's another kind of point of view that I think walking gives you that might even be superior to cycling. Certainly, I don't think there's a question about that, but definitely compared to being in a motor vehicle. I think the other thing is the notion of how much friction is involved in terms of the choices that you make. And this one gets a little more conceptual. As I'm walking around any particular neighborhood, the notion of being able to say, oh, look, I just see a for lease sign over there. That isn't in the direction that I'm going, but it's super easy for me to quickly turn, or maybe even turn around and reconsider. I passed one but didn't really take a closer look at it. The friction of making the decision to stop and change your plan on all of that really is a completely different thing compared to being on a bike, or certainly, again, being in a motor vehicle. It is a very different situation. And so, again, my ability, and I'm going back to yesterday because I was in a particular neighborhood where that happened twice, actually, where I was like, I see a sign. That wasn't the direction I was going to go, but I want to go check that out. In a bicycle travel context, how many times does that happen to you where you're, I'm gonna make a move to go check that thing on the other side of the street. I'm gonna stop and take a look at this lookout. Again, stuff that's much more difficult and sometimes impossible to do in a car. And so in the context of what I'm doing here, I got to check out at least a couple of different places that, who knows, they could have been a place that I would have wanted to live in. And that lack of friction while you're on 2 feet and the lowered friction compared to when you're cycling is really noticeable compared to being in a motor vehicle. I think the other thing is, this is really true when you're on a bike, and I think also extra true when you are walking around, is you have so much more permission to be inefficient in how you go about it. This is not so terribly different than what I just talked about, but just even now as I am walking, I just passed the street that my building is actually on. And that would be the most efficient thing to do. Turn left, go down there, straight line, boom. But you know what I like doing? I like it walking along Elliott Bay. I just moved to the Puget Sound area, and I super like being as close to the water as I can when I am doing stuff like that. Absolutely inefficient. But this mode of travel, this mode of moving about, allows you the ability to say, you know what? Inefficiency is a feature, not a bug in this type of a thing. So I am going to get to walk along with you along Elliott Bay for the remainder of our little time together here. And that is something that I can guarantee you, if I was in a car, I would not be doing that. This road that I'll be going next to is a way worse idea in a car going the direction I'm going to be going. Yeah, could I do it? Sure, but inefficiency is punished much more in that particular instance. And as a result, you're just not going to choose it. Me being on 2 feet, man, I can climb over things. I'm going over railroad tracks right now, looking both ways like a responsible human adult. Thank you very much. But that's so much easier with what I am doing being on 2 feet. And certainly would be easier on a bike, although if you're like me, I hate going over train tracks of any type on a bicycle. It is the worst. I have spilled on more than one occasion. In fact, I think the most spectacular crashes I've ever had have been when I have been going over some kind of a rail track. It is not good. I am unskilled in that. But anyways, getting back to the inefficiency and the choosing of all of that, it really makes so much more of a difference that you can do that. It's almost a touring mindset while you're going off and exploring. And last but not least is the concept of choosing adventure while you're out and about. And so I've managed to convert today, especially this afternoon, having a meeting that I was going to. And I was able to, because of the nature of the travel that I chose, I took transit to the meeting, but now I've been able to mix in a bunch of different types of adventure as I've been going along. I was able to check out a potential place to live. I was able to walk around in a cool neighborhood, see some iconic stuff. And now I managed to be right here on the water looking out towards some cloud-covered Olympic mountains while I'm doing the podcast at the exact same time. The freedom that you have when you're on 2 feet or on a bike can really outpace things. I have, sadly, done podcasts in a vehicle while it's moving. You have all suffered through that. It's not ideal. Even though those were, I think, all during the COVID years, when I was doing that big route scouting series, because that's all you could do then. But yeah, maybe that's an exception to the rule. That one worked out in its own weird way. But in a situation like today, the ability to multitask while I'm on 2 feet feels really good. I'm checking like multiple boxes as we go along here, just exploring, enjoying, and doing a podcast all at the same time. Hey, it all ends up working out. So I think that's sort of where I land on all of this, is that when you're looking to explore, and I encourage you to explore wherever you live right now, especially by bike, but also consider locking up the bike someplace and going out on 2 feet, because you are going to find the ability to find new things that maybe were completely unexpected. Because when you travel at a slower pace and when you do it in a way that you're not doing as often, you are going to find yourself in some places and doing some things that are really pretty cool. I'm literally walking right now next to where the ferry to Victoria leaves from. And it's actually docked here because I think it goes in the morning, if memory serves, during this time of year. And just kind of looking at that right now, realizing, hey, you know what? That is a gateway to adventure for me. If you recall correctly, all the way back at the beginning of this fine podcast, and some of you were not around for that, and some of you have gone back and listened to past episodes, but the beginning of my biggest adventure that I've ever done was in 2014, a million years ago. And it started in Victoria, BC. That was the beginning of my Pacific Coast route. There's a boat right here that would take me and my bicycle to Victoria straight from here. And just thinking about past adventures and future adventures and redoing certain adventures, that is this little dumb boat here, the San Juan Clipper. Is this the one? Oh, I don't think the Clipper doesn't go to BC. There's a fast ferry. It's a different boat, but this is the same place where you pick it up. That is just a reminder of stumbling upon things that are just a good reminder of what's available to you. I think I always knew that this place was here. I knew that there's a boat here that does all of that. Just, again, wandering around along here by foot and going, oh yeah, don't forget that's a possibility. And possibility is, I think, the thing that you end up getting in spades when you travel by bike or when you travel by foot. I think that's a good place to leave it. This little mini discovery of mine right here as we're right on the water. I'm not sure if you can hear the seagulls and all the other kind of soundscape that's around here. Hopefully you do. And if not, then I gotta rejigger my microphones and make it so you can hear it a little bit better. So those are my takeaways from exploration, slow exploration, whether that's going to be on your bicycle or whether it's going to be on foot. And the lessons that I've been learning as I've been looking around here for place to stay, a place to launch adventures, new home for the podcast and what it's going to be giving me. It's all pretty darn exciting, and there's just so much more to come. Even though these early episodes might not necessarily be exactly the exact same type of content that you're used to hearing, I think it's all relevant to what is to come. So I hope you continue to join me on these adventures once we get to a little more biking. Oh, by the way, a quick update. Yes, I have my bicycle here. My Brompton made the trip out, but it made it out in a weird way. I originally was going to do it the way I always do it and bring it aboard, put it in the overhead, and take the picture and all that other kind of stuff. On this trip, I realized if I was going to be taking the light rail to downtown where I'm at, it was going to be really tough. I have to walk through Pioneer Square. There's cobblestones. My bike would not roll super easily, and I would have had luggage as well on top of that. To be able to maneuver all of that together would have been difficult. And so what did I do? I have this enormous early 2000s era suitcase. I'm not even sure if they make them this big anymore, and certainly not in this particular shape. This particular shape was able to miraculously, if I angled the bike in properly, take the whole Brompton without having to take any of it apart. The only thing I had to do was to take the saddle post out, the extended saddle post, which I tell you, if you're traveling by air with these bikes, you got to get the extended saddle post, whether you're tall enough to need it or not. It is so much better. In any event, I was able to get the Brompton out here. And one thing, speaking of said saddle post, is it has been busted since Florida 2025. There has been a problem with it securing down properly when you close the clamp. And it's just been a problem. So I found myself a brand new Brompton shop, or at least a place that services Bromptons. There's a few here in Seattle. I picked one of them because it was slightly more convenient. from where I was at downtown, nowhere near downtown, up in Ballard, if you are familiar with the city, and took it there. Really loved the place from the jump. It was either the owner or one of the lead mechanics, just absolutely freaking phenomenal. And within a couple days was able to diagnose the things that I needed, including new tires. There's a shock, right? And yeah, I'm just really excited to have a bike. The only bummer is this week has been gloriously dry weather, like unusually dry weather. And I haven't had a bike to be able to ride around in any of this. And unfortunately, because of the nature of the seat post failure, this thing is, I think, over 10 years old. It's not a surprise that the sleeve within it wore out, but it's a bummer because I've been really wanting to ride a Brompton around here. I have not been able to do that. I may get one of those kind of short-term bikes. I don't even know what the system is around here. I think they're just all Lime bikes. But yeah, getting back on a bike and starting to explore things, maybe at that next level up, after getting done telling you how great it is walking around, is going to be pretty cool. Because although I have enjoyed the slower speeds and the ability to explore, now there's going to be times when I want to get places a little bit faster. And while the buses are great for all of that, and light rail is great for all of that, it'll be nice to have a bike again. And so it's exciting that the next time I'm out, because I go back for a week and then I'm back out here a week later, the Brompton will be ready for me and I will have the ability to get around just in time probably for it to be crappy weather again. But hey, you know what? Every once in a while, even on the crappy days, you get some windows of opportunity. So I intend to take them. All right. That has been a lot of rambling, a lot of off-the-cuff talk. I hope that was a somewhat enjoyable episode. Reminder, live show, Friday, the 16th of January. Hope you can make it. If you're listening to this after, the live show will be available both on YouTube and you can hear it the following week on this fine audio program. Thanks so much for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.